The pit bull was never what we thought it was. In fact, it doesn't even exist, not as a real breed. The DNA evidence proving this has been available for years, quietly dismantling one of the most persistent myths in modern America. This is the story of how science caught up to a century of fear, bad data, and a dog that was framed. Start with the most basic question. What is a pit bull? Most people think they know: blocky head, muscular build, wide jaw. But pit bull is not a breed. It's an umbrella term loosely applied to the American Pit Bull Terrier, the American Staffordshire Terrier, the Staffordshire Bull Terrier, the American Bully, and sometimes the Bull Terrier. There is no agreed-upon scientific, legal, or kennel club definition of what a pit bull-type dog actually is, and that ambiguity is where the entire problem begins. These dogs trace their lineage back to 19th century Britain. When the Cruelty to Animals Act of 1835 banned bull baiting, blood sport enthusiasts pivoted to dogfighting and ratting, crossing Old English bulldogs with Old English terriers to create what were called bull and terrier dogs, animals bred for tenacity and agility in the pit. But here is a detail that gets left out of nearly every conversation about these dogs. They were also deliberately bred for good temperament toward humans. Handlers needed to reach into a fighting pit, grab their dog mid-fight, wash it, and carry it away without getting bitten. A dog that turned on its handler was considered defective. It was culled, it did not breed, and for generations, human-directed aggression was actively selected against. By the 1870s, these dogs arrived in America. In 1898, Chauncey Z. Bennett founded the United Kennel Club and registered the breed as the American Pit Bull Terrier, the first organization to do so. By 1936, the American Kennel Club recognized a version of the breed under the name Staffordshire Terrier, later changed to American Staffordshire Terrier in 1972. For the first half of the 20th century, these were beloved American dogs. They appeared in military propaganda as symbols of courage. A pit bull named Sergeant Stubby served in World War I and became a decorated national hero, and another named Petey starred in the Our Gang films. Families posed proudly with their pit bulls in photographs. Nobody crossed the street when they saw one coming. So what changed? Fear changed. Media changed. And the data we relied on was never reliable to begin with. That's where the DNA evidence becomes devastating. A landmark study from the University of Florida, led by Dr. Julie Levy, tested shelter dogs that had been visually identified as pit bull types and compared those labels to actual DNA results. The findings were staggering. On average, 60% of dogs visually labeled as pit bulls had no pit bull DNA whatsoever. When shelter staff identified 62 out of 120 dogs as pit bull types, DNA testing confirmed only 25. 1 in 3 dogs with 0 pit bull heritage was still labeled a pit bull by at least one staff member, and 1 in 5 dogs that actually carried pit bull DNA was missed entirely. Dr. Levy stated it plainly. The marked lack of agreement observed among shelter staff members in categorizing the breeds of shelter dogs illustrates that reliable inclusion or exclusion of dogs as pit bulls is not possible, even by experts. She added something even more pointed. A dog's physical appearance cannot tell observers anything about its behavior. And that brings us to the biggest revelation of all. On April 28, 2022, the journal Science published what may be the most important canine behavior study ever conducted. Led by Kathleen Morrill and Dr. Eleanor Carlson at UMass Chan Medical School and the Broad Institute of MIT and Harvard, the study analyzed 2,155 dog genomes and surveyed over 18,000 dog owners. They identified 11 genetic regions strongly associated with behavior, and not a single one was linked to any specific breed. Breed accounted for only 9% of behavioral variation between individual dogs. 9%. The personality traits we associate with breeds, things like friendliness, fearfulness, and aggression, predate modern breeding entirely. As Elaine Ostrander of the National Human Genome Research Institute put it, no breed owns any particular trait. Now consider the bite statistics through that lens. The most comprehensive study on fatal dog bites, published in the Journal of the American Veterinary Medical Association, found that in 82% of fatal cases, the breed of the attacking dog could not be reliably confirmed. Only 18% had valid breed identification. Meanwhile, 84% of fatal attacks involved intact, unneutered dogs, a factor that has nothing to do with breed and everything to do with owner responsibility. And the scale of this deserves context. Fatal dog attacks in the United States average about 43 per year. Falls kill over 47,000. Cars kill over 43,000. We built an entire legal infrastructure around a statistical footnote based on breed identifications that are wrong most of the time. That legal infrastructure is breed-specific legislation, known as BSL. As of 2024, 21 states permit some form of it, with pit bulls targeted in 96% of all BSL ordinances. But here's what happened when countries actually tried it. The Netherlands banned pit bulls in 1993, and dog bites went up. They repealed the ban in 2008. The United Kingdom passed its Dangerous Dogs Act in 1991, and dog bites increased 50% over the following decade. 96% of veterinarians oppose BSL, and the CDC itself recommends against it, stating that breed-based bans are largely ineffective and often a waste of public resources. The tide is turning. Denver repealed its 31-year pit bull ban in 2020 by a 66% voter majority. In 2024, Florida eliminated all breed-specific legislation statewide through Senate Bill 942, which passed almost unanimously. Over 300 discriminatory BSL laws have been overturned across the United States since 2012. And over 18,000 cities and towns, roughly 96% of all U.S. municipalities, now rely exclusively on breed-neutral regulations. Even the myths told in defense of these dogs turned out to be fabricated. The famous nanny dog story first appeared in a 1971 New York Times article where a Staffordshire Bull Terrier breeder called them nursemaid dogs. It was marketing. There is no historical evidence that pit bulls were ever designated as nanny dogs, and Bad Rap, one of the most prominent pit bull advocacy organizations in the country, publicly abandoned the myth because it was putting children at risk by encouraging unsupervised contact. The truth doesn't need myths. We spent decades demonizing dogs based on how they looked, using identification methods that fail more often than they succeed, citing bite statistics where the breed is unknown in 4 out of 5 fatal cases, and passing laws that every major veterinary and public health organization opposes. Laws that demonstrably do not work. The DNA didn't just reveal what pit bulls are, it revealed what we are. A society that built policy on prejudice and called it public safety. The science is settled. Breed does not predict behavior. The only question now is whether we're willing to act like it.